in their normal functioning, signs rather than objects of knowledge. That is to say, in my awareness of a rose or of a prosaic, smelly marker, like this, you see, there is a twofold mental act. One is the immediate apprehension of this object with its qualities. And the other, that sort of spins off from that, is the ideas that I have in my mind that when I'm not aware of it, I use in referring to it. It has a distinctive smell. If ever I run across that smell elsewhere, I'll immediately think of this sort of thing. So ideas then play a role, but not as intermediaries. They play a role rather as signs of what may or may not be present, but not as intermediaries. The only time the ideas are intermediaries when you're thinking of the idea and there's nothing present. So then we have to talk not only about the theory of ideas, but about natural belief or common sense belief. Common sense belief. Sometimes this is called common sense realism. Watch the phrase common sense. It has at least two meanings. You remember in Aristotle, the common sense was a sense that coordinated, unified the other senses. The sensus communis, as it was called, the common sense. It worked with the other senses in common with them all. A unifying sense. Now, that's not Reid's usage of the term. Reid's using it more in the way we use it. When you say, in response to your first reading of George Berkeley's idealism, oh, that just violates common sense. That is to say, the natural unanalytic assumptions which we grow up with seems to be common to many people. Now, the problem with appealing to common sense, of course, is that what is common in one culture may not be common in another culture. So that there may be certain common sense matters for Americans that are utterly alien to common sense in Timbuktu or Timbuktu. And so, in a way, the term natural belief may be a bit safer. And from a philosophical standpoint, it's certainly a term that has a much more meaningful history. Natural beliefs. After all, we've had a tradition all the way through to Hume talking about the laws of nature. You see? Now, they've been understood differently in ethics and in the sciences. But the use of nature in a philosophical context goes all the way back to Aristotle, you recall, who is always saying, on any subject whatsoever, from physics to ethics, by nature, by nature, by nature, this, Fusai, by nature. So what Reid is doing is appealing to the intrinsic nature of things. Natural beliefs depend upon the intrinsic nature of human beings. They're not artificial beliefs that we make up, you know, as it is in the postmodern view, that we create our own values and we create our own meanings and we create our own beliefs. No, not for Reid, you see. There are beliefs that arise naturally in the course of nature, spontaneous, not artificial. Now, in that regard, there's significant resemblance to David Hume, you see. Because Hume's psychology of belief enables him to affirm that certain beliefs are natural beliefs. They arise in the course of nature. And you remember that curious little chapter in Hume's inquiry on reason in animals? You see, what he's really saying in that is not that animals reason out their beliefs. Animals don't reason. Animals seem to behave as if they have beliefs too. They believe in the reality of external objects, like the pile of hay. You see? They believe in the reality of this, that, and the other. They seem to believe certain things about these entities. And these are beliefs, quasi-beliefs, that arise simply in the course of nature by virtue of the intrinsic nature of horse psychology. So you've got an analogy here between what Hume is doing in talking about belief and what the Scottish realists are doing in talking about natural belief. The difference is this. Not that the Scottish realists affirm that human nature universally tends to produce certain beliefs. Hume believes that. But Reid's emphasis is on the fact that God made us in such a way that we would, in the course of nature, come to certain beliefs. He has a theistic justification for paying attention to natural beliefs. Now, even that is not novel. After all, Descartes had a theistic justification for trusting your rational faculties. So did John Locke. And now that, thanks to Berkeley and Hume, it's become evident that your rational faculties of intuition and demonstration are not all as good as Descartes and Locke had thought, if it is indeed that the rational powers are more limited, the fact is that we have natural proclivities towards belief. So you can thank God for that. Yes, sir. So it's the same sort of theistic undergirding for an epistemology that we had in Descartes and Locke, but with an updated view of the role and limitations of rational demonstration. You see. Now, having said that, Reid still thinks a lot of rational demonstration. Reid is still a foundationalist of sorts. You know, a foundationalist is one who thinks there are certain foundational truths from which we can deduce a whole lot more. Well, Reid thinks that way. But the foundational truths are not indubitably certain. You see? They're not rationally certain. The foundational truths are natural beliefs. And it's from these natural beliefs that we make our deductions. So from our natural beliefs about the existence of the physical world, the orderedness of the physical world, the magnificent order of this world of nature, sure, we can then produce deductive arguments for the existence of God, cosmological and teleological, you see. Which is the way it went in the thinking of Charles Hodge, the Princeton theologian, about 1860, who built the theistic arguments on Scottish realist basis. And it's therefore the basis of the so-called kind of inductivist apologetics, which came out of Princeton Seminary for decades on into the 20th century. Scottish realism. Well, among these natural beliefs that Reid has are beliefs about the laws of logic, beliefs about the axioms of mathematics, Euclidean geometry, for instance. Beliefs about the existence and nature of material things. And incidentally, he didn't buy into the atomism of matter, isolated particles with no interrelations. No. Beliefs about causal connections. Oh, yeah. The necessary connection between what we call cause and effect is directly known. We experience it. You see? And I think you can argue that way rather well. There are traditional arguments that we met in people like Locke, saying that we have the closest awareness of it in our own inner experience, in our ideas of reflection. The causal connection between the will and the body when you decide to do something and make yourself do it. You see? Well, I think in our own bodily feelings, by the same token, we have an awareness of causal force, causal power. When you lift heavy, heavy weights, you feel it in the muscle, the strain there. I sometimes use the illustration of carrying these large 40-pound sacks of softener salt that we have to use in water softeners around here into the house. You know, one in each hand, you know. And with one in each hand, you brace your arms and you carry them along, tottering as you go, you know, and you feel it all the way up. You feel the causal connections in some parts of the body. You see. Well, that's the sort of way in which Reid argues. But keep it in mind, because this is a point that Immanuel Kant is going to come back to. The crucial question, as Hume pointed out, for our knowledge of things, matters of fact beyond present experience, outside the mind, the crucial question is the question of cause and effect. Do we know there are cause and effect connections? Hume said no, but we come to believe them. Reid says knowing is simply having true belief. And we have natural belief. And Kant isn't satisfied with either. So he tries to find some other source for the idea of a cause-effect connection. It's going to